Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew, Duke of York, the younger brother of King Charles III, and the favourite son of the late Queen Elizabeth II, has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, and his home in Norfolk has been raided by the British police. The British monarchy is in its biggest crisis since the abdication of King Edward VIII in 1936. To recap, the former prince was stripped of his royal title last year because of his long-standing close friendship with the late American paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who allegedly died from suicide in 2019 while in prison awaiting trial. That centred on accusations against him of sexual assault against Virginia Jeffrey, who died of suicide nearly a year ago. Mountbatten-Windsor has consistently denied those allegations. A settlement had been agreed back in 2022 in which Mountbatten-Windsor reportedly paid Jeffrey somewhere between 10 and 12 million pounds. It was reported last week that the late Queen paid up to 7 million towards that settlement, with the estate of the late Prince Philip paying up to 3 million pounds and 1.5 million being paid by the then Prince Charles, now the King of the country, with other royals contributing too. Bear in mind that this, as we'll talk about, meant he didn't have to testify in court, with all the potential embarrassment that could have brought on the monarchy. A royal source reported, according to the British press last week, that he hadn't paid anything back. He tried apparently to pay back his fellow royals from selling a Swiss chalet, and that didn't work out. Now, bear in mind that the police have arrested him and issued a statement in which they say, please also remember that this case is now active, so care should be taken with any publication to avoid being in contempt of court. Everyone is considered innocent of criminal activity until proven otherwise. We'll talk about the details with that in mind and what this says about the British establishment. Now, obviously, regardless, this arrest shakes the institution of the monarchy to its core. King Charles III, who bailed him out, as I've said, that is, bailed out the former Prince, Andrew, issued a statement in which he said, I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, that is his younger brother, by the way, and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. Well, those libraries aren't going to open themselves, are they? It's worth noting that a poll last week found that support for the monarchy was in a state of collapse in this country, as is, down to 45% supporting an unelected head of state and a third preferring a republic. Back in 12, 3/4 of the population backed the monarchy, with just 15% supporting an elected head of state. And crucially, amongst younger people, there is a large lead for those who support a republic. Now, what we know is that claims made about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor about his relationship with Epstein appear to be false, based on the emails which have reportedly shown his actual relationship with Epstein. He was interviewed by Emily Maitlis, then at the BBC, a few years ago, and this is what he said about his friendship with Epstein.
In 2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was your friend. How did you feel about it?
Well, I ceased contact with him after I was aware that he was under investigation. And that was later on in 2006. And I wasn't in touch with him again until 2010. So it was one of those things that somebody's going through that sort of thing. Well, I'm terribly sorry, I can't be.
So no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always, ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it. I had to go and see him and talk to him. And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time. And we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park. And that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day. And to this day, I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
Well, the emails that have now been released by the American government, and obviously there is a cover-up going on in the United States. We do not have the full unredacted emails in terms of what this says about Epstein and his actual activities, his relationships and all the rest of it. But the emails that have been released show that someone called the Duke, who appears to be Mountbatten-Windsor, exchanged emails with Epstein days after Epstein's house arrest. Again, arrested for soliciting sex, prostitution with a minor. That days after his house arrest ended in August 2020, he was discussing a beautiful Russian woman with the then Prince Andrew. Epstein said, I have a friend who I think you might enjoy having dinner with. The Duke responded he'd be delighted to see her and asked Epstein to give her my contact details to get in touch. He asked for more information about her, and Epstein writes, she's 26, Russian, clever, beautiful, trustworthy, and yes, she has your email. The Duke responded, that was quick. How are you? Good to be free? Question mark. Note that. Good to be free? Question mark. Referring, of course, to Epstein's release. In September 2010, emails between Epstein and Mountbatten-Windsor showed Epstein requested private time on a proposed visit to London, and Mountbatten-Windsor responded, we could have dinner at Buckingham Palace and lots of privacy. A couple of days later, he said, delighted for you to come here to Buckingham Palace. Come with whomever and I'll be here free from 4 p.m-ish. Did the then Prince Andrew take Epstein to Buckingham Palace? We don't know, thanks to the secrecy of the monarchy, which is the symbol of this country, officially. The emails also suggest he went to what was described by a Hollywood publicist as a late-minute casual dinner at Epstein's New York home during his visit to that home. He was staying at that home in New York, which he claimed only took place in order to break off contact with the late paedophile. Remember, he said he'd only gone to New York rather than breaking off his friendship over the phone because he said that was the chicken's way of doing it. At this dinner, invites were sent to the likes of Woody Allen, the journalist Katie Couric, and so on, though we don't know who actually went. But the publicist said, come on time and you'll have private time with Andrew as he's staying at the house. So the implication there from that email is Prince Andrew's visit involved being used as the centrepiece of a social event with Jeffrey Epstein. As for this being the end of all contacts, on 27th of February 2011, the then Prince reportedly emailed Epstein, keep in close touch, and will play some more soon, 4 exclamation marks. Photos released in the Epstein files appeared to show Mountbatten-Windsor on all fours crouched over an unidentified woman as she lies on the floor. We also know that in October 2010, after Epstein's conviction, when the former Duke of York claimed not to be in contact with him except to go and break off their friendship a few weeks later, emails allegedly show he shared confidential information with Epstein, which is now obviously the focus of investigations. But, I mean, this was forwarding official reports of his visits to Singapore, Vietnam, Hong Kong and China as part of his role as UK trade envoy. Trade envoys are mandated by the government to have a duty of confidentiality. Mountbatten-Windsor allegedly forwarded one email to Epstein within 5 minutes of it being sent to him by his personal advisor in November 2010. We also know that on Christmas Eve 2010, Mountbatten-Windsor appears to have given Jeffrey Epstein access to a confidential document about investment opportunities in Afghanistan's Helmand province involving a government-backed scheme to supposedly rebuild the country. It details such business opportunities as significant high-value mineral deposits and the potential for low-cost extraction of raw materials, including gold, iridium, uranium, thorium, marble, oil and gas. Just as an aside, the British state, along with the US and other Western states, occupied Afghanistan for 2 decades and committed terrible war crimes, which drove people there back into the arms of the Taliban, who then took over the country again, of course, back in 2021. The idea of the UK government offering opportunities to make money out of it is just grotesque and obviously screams colonialism. Now, look, there is so much we need to know about the Epstein scandal in general, not least, of course, getting justice for survivors of sexual abuse. Putting aside allegations of criminality, what we know about the former prince and Epstein exposes the grubby world of the British establishment. The former prince only has the position he does because of his birth. He was part of an international elite network which operates in the shadows, looking after each other's financial interests, each other's bank balances, while allegedly being involved in sexual abuse. Now, the royal family, including the late Queen, came to his rescue in this settlement, as I said, with Virginia Giuffre. That meant he didn't have to testify. And a trial could have caused huge embarrassment to the monarchy. Now, compare and contrast the support he's received with the way the royal family has treated Meghan Markle. You have to ask yourselves, why do we have to have, as a symbol of our nation, a bunch of these privileged people bestowed with huge wealth and influence and power by virtue of birth, operating in the shadows without scrutiny? The monarchy must go. This whole saga underlines why. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts and your comments. Help us take on the overwhelmingly monarchist media, I would say. Patreon.com/784. You make all the work we do possible. And we'll be doing more as I finish my book in the coming weeks. Well, in fact, I'm going to just do the editing now. Very exciting. The Fall of the West. But yeah, patreon.com/784. Press like, subscribe, leave your comments. I'll speak to you in a bit.